Oh, what's up? What's up? What's up? It is your girl, Pastor Courage Molina. Let me get my right thing on the screen. It is your girl, Pastor Courage Molina of Dose of Courage Community Church. What's good? Make sure y'all say good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And I help women to build extraordinary faith. I help women to build, let me say it again. I help women to build extraordinary faith because I just think that like we could I actually believe this. I'm gonna tell y'all this. Y'all can tell everybody. I actually believe this. I believe that we could actually impact the world if we, women of faith, were better equipped in the word. I'm gonna say that again. I believe that no matter what our station is, no matter what our position is, no matter where we've been placed, that we could change the world, that we could actually be the light if we were better equipped in the word. If we understood the importance of being trained in the word of God as ministers, that means that there would be and like, you ever seen those movies or shows where they're like, is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? And then somebody raised their hand. That's what it would be like. It would be like having a doctor in every single house. You could take that word, you could be the light every single place that you went to, because then what would be dictating your response, right? The thing that would have you resetting every day would be your studying in the Bible. I went to, I'm so off topic, but I'm gonna get back. I went to Barnes and Noble, which is like, it's not a good place to go because I really like books. Um, I went to Barnes and Noble and and I got distracted. I went there for a journal, but I got distracted because they have this Bible section. So I went to the Bible section. They had all these Bibles there, and there was this particular Bible, which I think is it's fine. I don't own one or anything, and I don't know them that well, um, but I understood their mission, and their mission is to get women, and I love it actually. I love that they have a mission like this. Their mission is to get women to read their Bible every day. That they have these communities all over the world, and their goal, their focus is to get women to read their Bible every day. And I think that that's a great mission. And once we get there, because we have to start, there's got to be a starting point. And the truth is, so many Christian women are not even taking their Bibles to church anymore. And it's because of technology. We don't really have to take our Bible. When we're watching a sermon, we don't have our Bible out. We just showing up, doing regular stuff, and that's fine. But I think that if we're in a place where women are just reading a devotional for 5 minutes or watching a bunch of devotional videos, no tea, no shade, because this is a devotional video, then the next step would be to get them to actually open the Bible and get them reading every day. I think that is wonderful. The next step after reading every day, though, is to get women studying every day. That the standard would be that every single day, my standard is for me to study my Bible, even if it's 5 or 6 days a week. So I know like we don't do anything perfectly, but I'm saying if that was the standard, that every day I would study my Bible, and if I didn't have time, I would do like a quick little Bible study, or would do a quick little devotional where I meditated on the word or something like that. If I had to say, I think that is so important that we start to study the word every day, because reading it is great. But once you get into the habit of reading, you need to go beyond that and start studying, right? This is like, so when I tell you the Lord is so on point. And so I want to talk to you about, boy, I need some help. I want to talk to you about the secret to success. Every time I think I got it, I ain't got it. I want to talk to you about the secret to success. I think I got a dog. It's at my door. And here's what I know about the secret to success. I know, wow, he is really crying during my devotional. Give me 1 second. Wow, this is actually, happening right now. Since it's live, it can't be edited. Hey, babe, I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm literally streaming live right now, and Kingston is crying. So I don't know if he really has to go outside or what, but he's crying and banging at my door. All right, love me. Yeah, he's actually crying. Y'all could hear him. Wow. He's usually not the one banging at the door. It's usually Thor banging at the door, but he's actually whining. And he does not like me that much. So him wanting to get in this room, that means something else is going on. It is absolutely not that. It's absolutely not that he, is so in love with me. He wants to be in this room. That ain't it. All right. So the secret to success, here's the thing, because I'm talking to you about like getting in the word and studying the word like as a standard every day. You are entrepreneurs and you want to be successful. I don't know how else to make this connection for you. I try so hard. I try to use so many words. I be praying. I be like, Lord, please give me the words for me to say, so it can really click for them. But I'm trying to help you to understand that the foundation of your business, the foundation is not your product. The foundation is not your services. The foundation is not your brand or your logo. I know that's where we start. That is not it. Some of you want to go back to school. You want to get credentials. You want to get certified. You're going through business accelerator programs. You are doing goal setting programs, all those things. That's not the foundation, woman of God. The foundation of your business has got to be you being able to interpret the Bible. That has got to be the foundation, because God does not care more about your business than he does about you understanding Bible. He's not telling you, the Bible doesn't say anywhere to get you a brand, but it tells you to meditate on it day and night so that you will know what is good and right, so that you will know, so you'll know what to do, and then you can be successful, right? But we're not meditating on it day and night. We don't even understand meditation. He says to study the Bible to make yourself approved. So you think that the most important thing that you can do is, get a business coach. The first time you have an idea, you want somebody to help you understand your purpose. The first time you start thinking about what it is you're going to do, we start with all these business things and we leave God's business behind. Well, the truth is the foundation has got to be word. And it's not on some super Christian type stuff. It's not on some super religious type stuff. The reason that the foundation has got to be the word is because everything lives and breathes from what you believe. Everything comes through your actual belief system and what you understand. So the verse of the day today is, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. We know what that means. Y'all have said it. Somebody has said 100 times. It is a slogan. It's something that you can put on a bumper sticker. It's something you can put on a t-shirt. It's a great thing for you to drop on Instagram. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The power of life and death lies in the tongue. Hallelujah. Somebody, like, we say those things, but then we speak death. We say those things, but then we proceed to speak death, and we're confused about why things are taking so long. No, I don't care. I don't care what it is you're saying. The word of God says, and those who love it will eat its fruit. I think the tongue has the power of life and death. So what comes out of your mouth, right, has the power to create life. Are you with me? And it has the power to destroy life. Do you get that? I don't think that we got it. We wouldn't be so loose with our lips. But I understand the problem. I'm gonna come back to what the problem is. What comes, and it doesn't matter. Like, people think like, well, if I don't believe in that. Just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it's not true. There are some things that require no belief in order for them to come to pass. Do you hear what I'm saying? There are some things that require no belief in order for things to come to pass. The power of your words, what comes out of my mouth, is either going to produce life, do you hear me, or destroy life. So I wonder what you are. I wonder if you are a producer of life or a destroyer of life. And before you say you're a producer of life, I wonder what things do you cavalierly say out of your mouth about your business and your business prospects. I wonder what are the things that you say out of your mouth. So, see, sometimes we think that we're just keeping it real, and you are keeping it real, but you're keeping it exactly as it is. When you say how it is all the time, instead of calling things that are not as though they were, you are coming into agreement with the way things are. If every time you said something out your mouth, you were like, and that's just the way I want it, then you would say less things that you didn't want, even if that's exactly how things were. You wouldn't say things like, I don't know if my marriage is going to survive this. I don't know if this business is going to be successful. You wouldn't say those things. You would say, I know what the Lord says about me, so I know this is going to turn out for my good. I know what the Lord has said about this situation. I know what the Lord said is available to me, so this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to say instead. But instead, we say how things are, and we continue to speak death. And this second part, I'm gonna go back to the power of life and death in a second. And those who love it will eat its fruit. What does it mean? It means, and those of you who talk or do a lot of talking, myself, I talk a lot. Those of you who do a lot of talking, you're gonna have to live that life you talk about. You are going to have to, so your words produce, your words are successful. Your words produce fruit. Okay. The fruit that is produced is based on the words that you say. And when you say a lot of words, guess what? You're going to have to eat that. You're going to have to eat that. Didn't you see what I'm saying? You are going to have to eat it. Here's the problem, though. I watch these reels. You guys watch reels. Follow me on Instagram, Courage Molina. I be trying to drop a reel a day, child. Okay. But I look at these reels, and my mom is on Instagram, and she sends me reels every day. And I told her, stop sending me these reels because all her reels got kids in them. Every reel that she's got she be sending me, it's got a small child in it, saying something crazy, doing something crazy, just absolutely craziness. I'm like, she obviously love kids because all the reels she send, they are of very little people. And when you start looking at those reels, you start to get more of those reels. I don't want these reels with these children on there. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, but what makes those reels so funny is that these very tiny people are saying some of the craziest things. Some of them are crazy funny. Some of them are crazy. They might need a spanking. Some of them are crazy, like, you know what they mama them saying in the house. You know what I'm saying? You know what they are around. Why? Because what we say is not so much what we want. We say what we hear repeatedly. I'm going to say it again. We say, like children, what we hear repeatedly. So if a kid is in a house, you don't have to teach him to curse. If you're cursing all the time around the small kid, that small kid is going to say out of his mouth what he's heard. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you have a saying, right, that you use all the time, like, oh, I know you didn't. If you have a saying that you use all the time, then what the kid is going to say, the kid is going to start using that saying, right? The kid's going to start using that saying. Why? Because they say what they hear. It's why, they'll walk around saying things. Jackson, my little nephew, Olivia's nephew, Jackson, he is very funny and he's very cute, his big head self. And I was at their house when he was still staying in Charlotte. I was over there. He's over there harassing me like he liked to do. And he kept saying, what the? He kept saying, what the shell? And I was like, and she was like, boy, you better stop saying that. You better stop saying that. And I was like, I looked at him and I said, do you watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And he was like, yeah, courage. And he starts laughing. And I told Olivia, I'm like, yeah, that's where he get that crap from. Because they say that on that cartoon, which I hate that. You know what I'm saying? Like they say that on that cartoon all the time. What the shell? I'm like, that's not okay. Because if they say it every week and kids are watching it, like, kids are watching episode after episode after episode after episode, then what are they saying? They're saying the same things, right? We say we are like children. We act like we so grown, but real talk, we are like children. We say what we hear repeatedly. And so what are you hearing repeatedly that you would like to be able to repeat about your business? What we also say what we've seen. We don't talk about a lot of times, especially as adults, things that we've never seen before. We don't say that with confidence. We don't say that out in open spaces. We don't say those things. We only say what we've seen done before. We only say what other people say is possible. That's all we say. So in a world where we have complaint culture, right? That's what we have. We have complaint culture. We have keeping it real culture. It's a very difficult thing. It proves itself to kind of be a little bit difficult to not speak the native language of this land. And this land, the native language is death. That's number one. That's our number one language. Our first language is death. Our first language is doubt. Our first language is false. Because we are born into a sinful world, we have got to learn a new language. We have got to learn to speak life. And do you know what it requires in order for you to learn a second language? Maybe it's your third language. Who knows how many languages you know? I think we are out here, thinking about all these other things. You want a heavenly language, but your first language is death and your second language is heavenly. But in the meantime, in between time, you speak in death. You don't know life. You don't know how to speak life because we say what we hear repeatedly. We only say what we've seen, and it's based on what we believe. And because it's the only things that we say are the things that we believe, right? Only things that we say are the things that we see. Those are the things that we believe to be possible, right? I just finished listening to this book and reading it. I had it on Audible, and I also read it. It's not over here where I am. The Vision-Driven Leader. Which I think is absolutely amazing. I got it for the team at the church too. The Vision-Driven Leader is absolutely amazing. But when you're listening to the book and he's giving you all these examples of companies, he's telling you, how Uber got started, and he's telling you all these things. And it's like those people, Zappos, right? Online shoe shopping and whatever. These people were not innovators, right? They had great imagination. They were able to imagine a world that did not yet exist, and they started to create products and services for that world. That's a different level of imagination. So if they had the imagination to believe like something like that could happen, they probably had the words behind it, which I think is crazy because not everybody that he mentioned was a person of faith. And this is what I say all the time. People are like, well, how are other people successful? They're successful because they apply the principles of how this thing actually works without having faith in God, without believing in Jesus. They believe that what they say is important. I remember when The Secret came out, people were like, oh, you should read that. It seems like something you would be interested in. And then when I finally listened to it, and I didn't listen to it until actually since we've been living in this house, and we've only been in this house like 6 years. So I know it came out way before then, but I didn't listen to it then. I listened to it here. Somebody sent it to me and I was like, you know what? I never did listen to that. Let me listen to it. I was like, I ain't saying this is plagiarism, but this is Bible. They've removed God, they've removed Holy Spirit, they've removed responsibility and all of those things. But the baseline principle of, saying something over and over, that's based on this principle. See, and I think that we don't understand like how principles work. Principle means it's a universal truth. You don't have to buy into it. It's true whether you buy into it or not. It's a principle. right? It's not like a belief system. I know there's a belief system, and so we believe some things and people believe other things, and so it's a faith-based thing, right? So I don't know, but there are some principles, and you can believe them or not believe them, but they still work that way. And so this is a principle that what I say out my mouth is going to create an environment. And so if my first language is death and destruction, my second language is doubt and fear, my third language is complaint and condemnation, then what am I going to be eating in the seasons to come? Then what thing can I expect for those words to produce in my life? So it seems like to me, I would take a step back and I would acquire, right? I would acquire the vocabulary so that I could speak life. I would change the environment so that I could hear life. I would be around other people so I could practice, right? We could have some practice conversations. When I learned Spanish, I started taking Spanish in 6th grade, and I know way less Spanish today, even after teaching it for 11 years. I know way less Spanish today than I did probably in like 9th or 10th grade. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I acquired a ton of vocabulary, but my homegirl, mi hermana, she is from Honduras, and she didn't speak English. I met her in 8th grade, and she didn't speak English, and her mama didn't speak English. And so not only did I acquire the vocabulary, right, at that lower level, right, 8th grade level, I acquired the vocabulary, and then I spent time around her. I was at her house every weekend, and I tried to stay the whole weekend if my mama would let me. I was talking to her and her mom. I always had it close by. I was always looking something up in the dictionary. And if I didn't know what to say, come on, Jesus, if I didn't know what to say in a certain situation, I didn't say anything. I looked it up first, and then I came back to say what I needed to say. But I was in a space where I was acquiring the new language, where I could hear the new language, and where I was forced to speak that language, because not speaking that language did not compute with anyone around me. You need to get yourself in a position where you are acquiring the new language, the new vocabulary every single day, and where you are in spaces where people speak life. You're in spaces where people are repeating what they heard in the word. You are in spaces where people are repeating what they heard the Lord say, instead of repeating they're repeating what their father's saying instead of repeating what their fear is saying. You got to get in a community where it does not compute to them for you to say something that denies the power of God's life, of God in your life. You need to be in a place where when you start to sound like other people, they are looking at you like, what are you saying? We don't know what that means. We don't speak that language. I don't know why you would say that. You need to be in a space where when you're starting to talk negatively about how things are going or how things are going to go, there's somebody there that can reroute you and say, I don't really understand what you're saying, but the language that I speak, this is what we say. So what are you saying? Because you need people who are going to be looking at you confused and dazed every time you are speaking from a place of complaint, and you're speaking from a place of complacency, and you're speaking from a place of fear, because all those words lead to death. But we then don't want to do what is necessary so that we can be fluent in the language of life. We don't want to take the time to learn, to practice. I used to tell my students, I taught Spanish for 11 years. I used to tell my students first week of school, I'm like, I'm telling y'all right now, I'm putting y'all on game. I'm telling you today exactly what you need to do in order, right, for you to do well in this class. This is the starting point. The starting point is for you to do your assignments, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, but this is the secret sauce. It is 15 minutes of study minimum. I'm like, because some people are smart, they only need 10, right? I'm like, but 15 minutes of studying it every single day, in addition to doing your homework, right? In addition to paying attention and participating in class, in addition to all of these things, then on top of that, you need to spend 15 minutes studying your vocabulary and studying your grammar notes every single day. If you spend a minimum of 15 minutes, they say, what do you mean every day? I'm like, every day you brush your teeth. They're like, I don't brush my teeth every day. I'm like, well, if you ain't brush your teeth that day, we got bigger problems. So I'm still going to stick with every day you brush your teeth. I want you to study these Spanish words. Why am I saying that? Because you need to really own that vocabulary so that when you get into a situation, you can hear when life is being spoken. Some of you can't even recognize that language, right? I've been in places where people are speaking languages and I think like, oh, I don't even know what language that is. Why? Because I've never been exposed to it. Some of y'all don't even know what life sounds like. Some of y'all don't know when it's death because y'all been around it so much. Some of y'all don't know what life sounds like, what life creating words sound like. It sounds like people who are too optimistic. It sounds like people who are naive. It sounds like people who are out of touch. It sounds like people with great imagination, right? You can't even identify the language, right? You have to be in a space where you can hear what it sounds like. What does life creation actually sound like? And how can I participate in these conversations so that I can communicate with other people, with myself, and I can produce the life that I actually want to live? But you don't want to do what it takes to acquire that language. You are not fluent. Okay, I see what you did. Okay, I see what you're doing. You're not fluent in Spanish because you took Spanish 1. That does not make you fluent because you know a couple of words. I love Spanish. I still love Spanish. And I always talk about, getting some Spanish lessons because I really want to be fluent. I never felt fluent. Never. If I was ever fluent, if I ever had a chance, if I was ever close to being bilingual, it was in my high school days, probably like 11th, 12th grade, because I had taken Spanish my whole time, and me and Stella were still friends. I was doing like Spanish speaking competitions and things like that. I was in the Spanish club. I was just completely, you hear what I'm telling you? I was completely immersed in hearing the language and being around a community of people who also loved the language. I wasn't just in regular classrooms. I wasn't just in like Spanish 1 or Spanish 2 where everybody's got to go, right? What I'm saying to you is it's not enough for you to know a couple of expressions. That's what we used to call them in Spanish. They're an expression. An expression means I know these few words that come together and they have a meaning, right? That's what that is. And so this is not like, oh, I know some expressions. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 11th, 12th grade. I could hold my own. You understand what I'm saying? I could hold my own anywhere I went. Like, what's good? I could hold my own. Why? Because I didn't stop at Spanish 1. Because I didn't think that because I knew some words that I knew the word well enough for the level that I wanted to be at. Come on, Jesus. Let's say that again. I did not think that because I knew some words, I knew the word to get me to the level that I wanted. So you'll think that because you know a couple of Christian sayings and you know a couple of Bible verses, I was dedicating, there was never a year. Let me just tell you right now, there was never a year in my formal education since grade 6 that I did not enroll in a Spanish class. Do you hear me? There was never a year in my education where I did not take Spanish. I took Spanish every single year in middle school. I took Spanish every single year in high school. And I took Spanish every single semester in college. If I had been paying attention and I wasn't so riddled with fear, I probably would have just stayed a little longer and got a bachelor's degree in Spanish because I got more than a minor. Right? Like I say that my degree is in economics and my minor is in Spanish, but I exceeded the requirements for having a minor because I took a Spanish class every single semester. And I took a Spanish class every single semester because I wanted to be excellent, right? Because I wanted to be excellent. I wanted to be able to speak Spanish in various situations. Some of you can only speak life in a few situations. So you have some sayings and you have some scriptures and you have some type of belief. And so you can speak Spanish in some certain situations. Like, oh, I can say it in these situations, but you're not fluent. You're not bilingual. You level 1, right? You level 1. You're not fluent, right? You are not fluent. Let me just say right now, I never felt fluent. I mean, I could speak it and you wasn't going to be talking about me and I could talk about various things, right? I could talk about various things in Spanish for sure. And they always like, oh, it's like riding a bicycle. It would probably come back to me if I was in that situation. But that's another thing about language. That's another thing about language. If you don't use it, you lose it. And you have to use it at its highest level. Here's the problem with speaking. Here's the thing, is that I took Spanish all those years. I did not feel fluent. I never felt fluent personally. Somebody else might have thought I was fluent, but I never felt fluent. I would never say that. Other people would be like, "Oh, she's fluent in Spanish," and I would be like, "That's not true." And maybe I didn't think I was fluent because I knew people who were actually fluent, like I knew native speakers. That was my, because I knew native speakers, that was my standard. So I wasn't talking about like how Americans sound. I was talking about like I knew native speakers. And so I feel like native speakers, they can speak Spanish no matter where a person is from. Even if they're not from the same space, they might have a few little nuances that are not the same, but those two people can still speak to each other. So even if I'm from Mexico, I can talk to somebody in Costa Rica, and the Spanish is not necessarily the same, right? But I had very high standards. My standards were native speakers, right? So I never felt fluent. But what I'm going to tell you is this, is that you have to ask yourself this question. This question is for you. What level is okay for you? And you, whatever, and because that's what's going to dictate what you do, right? That's going to dictate how much you study. I studied more than I needed to study because it was so important to me for me to be able to speak the language. My accent sound good. Why? Because it was important for me to sound like somebody who actually spoke Spanish and not somebody who learned the language but didn't really understand the nuance of that language. It was important for me to not only learn the language, but for me to learn the culture. I wonder if you spent more time studying the words so that you could speak life, if you would then be able to have a better understanding of the culture of the kingdom. If you would understand, come on, Jesus, kingdom culture. But no, you stop at level 1. I noticed I got a couple scripture. That's it. So you got a couple little sayings, but you still don't understand the culture. You still don't understand. You misusing words. You mistranslating. You misinterpreting. Why? Because you have a basic and beginner's level. Because you've only dedicated 1 year, 1 semester. You met the requirement. Okay, well, I gave my life to Christ, and now I'm using the bold method. The bold method is Cliff's Notes, my friend. Will they get the job done? Yes. Will it make you speak fluent? Absolutely not. You're never going to be fluent using the bold method only. Never. Never, ever, 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 ever. Never. No. It's never going to happen. Listen, if I stay with the analogy, using the bold method is great. It's going to help you in a bind. It's going to help you when time is short. It's going to help you to focus a little bit. It's going to help you. It's like having one of those phrase books. If you have a phrase book, baby, you can get some things done. Having a phrase book is better than having a dictionary, right? When you don't speak the language, it's going to help you get some things done. The bold method is like a phrase book. It's going to help you in a situation so that you can communicate. It's going to help you out. But you ain't going to be fluent if all you use is the phrase book. Why? Because you don't, come on, you do something today. You know why? Because you don't understand the structure of the sentence. You don't understand how to make a new sentence to apply to your situation. So if the phrase book don't have it, then you won't be able to say it. It's because the phrase book does not impart to you the culture, right? When it's said, so you know what it means, but you don't know when to use it, how to use it, and who to use it with. You're misusing the scripture. There are all these different tenses and tones and persons. There's a formal and an informal, but you might know that one is formal and one is informal, but you don't know when to use the formal and the informal. Why? Because you stopped at level 1. So you're aware and you only using the phrase book. You got to decide, because I'm trying to tell you right now that the foundation of your business, woman of God, has got to be you acquiring the language of life. And that comes from the word. It comes from knowing how to study the word of God. It comes from knowing how to interpret the word of God. And interpretation and application certainly does not happen without understanding kingdom culture. And you don't get to understand kingdom culture because you know a couple scriptures, because you've been through a level. That's not how it works. So I want to invite you on today. I'm going to be inviting y'all every single week. That's what I've decided. I want to invite you on today to enroll in courageous discipleship. If you're on the email list, it's going to start being at the bottom of the email every time. And it's got the link for regular payment. And it's got the link if you need the flexible payment. And that flexible payment works for Courageous Discipleship 1 and 2. You're going to want to go to Courage Molina University and enroll in Courageous Discipleship 1 or 2. If you haven't been through any of them, then you're going to start at 1. You're not going to start with Spanish 2. Everybody starts with Spanish unless you are the son of God, son of man. You need to start at level 1. Even when people were like, oh, I did this thing, I spoke a little Spanish, we'd be like, yeah. Even if native speakers came into the educational system, right, but they never went to school in their country, right? So if they came in from another country and so they spoke Spanish and they went to school, right? I was in school, then those kids, we would allow them to test out, right? We would allow them to test out. But if they spoke Spanish and they learned Spanish from being in the household, we made them take Spanish 1. Why? Because they knew the language, right? But they didn't understand why things were the way they were. And so they couldn't necessarily read and write at a higher level because they just were saying what they heard. That's good. That's so good, because some of y'all are able to speak life because you grew up in homes where life was spoken all the time. But the problem is your reading comprehension is low. You can speak it fluently because the home that you grew up in, the environment, you didn't grow up like I grew up. Your family wasn't dysfunctional like my family. Child, you had a blessed life. Your daddy was a pastor and he was a good pastor, and your mama was a good first lady or whatever. And so you know the language, you understand the language, but you don't have the background. Your reading comprehension is low. You can't read the word. You don't know how to study the word. You don't know how to interpret the word. Why? Because you learn how to speak it in your house, and that's cool, but you got no formal education. And this type of language acquisition to get to the highest level requires that you are able to read, write, and speak in the target language. And in this case, the target language is life. It's not enough for me to be able to sing the songs, because that's another way. It's not enough for me to have the accent because I know the songs and I watch the movies. I need to be able to read, write. You know what I'm saying? Reading comprehension. I need to be able to write correctly, write with grammatically correct. And I need to be able to speak it in the right tenses, in the right situations. You're not getting that with no Spanish 1. You're not getting that with Spanish 1. And my native speaker, mis hispanohablantes, who learned in the home and did not go to school, when they came in, they struggled the most with grammar. Why? Because they didn't understand the rules behind why they were saying what they were saying. So when they had to recreate it themselves, they couldn't do it. When they had to recreate it in the situations and circumstance that they were given, right? Like, oh, I know you talk about this, but I want you to talk about going to the movies, right? That's another thing with learning how to speak Spanish in America, is that, at that lowest level, it's not real Spanish culture. At that lowest level, Spanish 1, it's Spanish words with American culture, because you're learning how to say things like hamburguesa, y lechuga, y cereales, y huevos. y pollo, pero that's not the kind of food that you eat. You are really eating things like arepas y arroz con gandules and, you know, as what is it, cerdo asado. That's really what plátanos, but we're not using those words. You're learning how to say English food items, American food items, right, in Spanish. So at that first level, it is not this, it's not culture yet. You still don't get the culture. You got some of the language, you got a little bit of the grammar, you got almost none of the culture. You got to go up to levels. You got to go up to level 4 to advanced levels so that you can really get an understanding of the culture. You're not reading Spanish stories. You're reading stories that are more American in Spanish language. But the higher up you go, you start to read Spanish literature, and you start to read things that are born in that culture and in that language. But that's not at level 1. Some of y'all stopping at level 1. Take courageous discipleship 2. Or take courageous discipleship 1. You think because you speak it fluently, you learn it in your house. Honey, that's not no foundation for where God is taking you. He's getting ready to take you into a situation your mama wasn't in. Your mama could speak life over health and healing, and your mama could speak life over relationships, but your mama didn't have the imagination, and she can't speak life when it comes to business, so you are not equipped in that language. See, every vocabulary list that came was themed at every level. You got broader and less common themes the higher up in the levels that you went. Did you know that? That's how, if you just think about learning language, if you think about language acquisition, that first list of vocabulary, it's in like greetings, and then the next list of vocabulary, it's like this. But I taught Spanish 4, and when you got to Spanish 4, we're talking about environment, and we're talking about energy, and we're talking about el gobierno, and we're talking about these types of things. So maybe I know the language and I can talk about food and household and chores, but now God is getting ready to take me to a place where I need to talk about an environment that I never talked about before, or he's elevating me to a place where I'm going to be in government, where I'm going, okay, well, that I don't know how to speak that type of Spanish. Why? Well, because I only learned these easy environments. I only studied level 1. I only studied level 2. I stopped. I thought I was doing something because I got to level 3, right? That's what happens. And that's what happens when it comes to speaking life. And so I just want to encourage you. This is the number. Like, people think rule number 1 to have a business is maybe to go to business school. I think rule number 1 is enroll in courageous discipleship. Why? Because there's a foundation of faith that you need to lay down, being able to speak life in a certain way. I can believe God for what he's saying about my business. I can go to bed. I say this all the time. I go to bed thinking, oh, I could wake up a millionaire. Why? Because my business is set up as such that I actually could wake up a millionaire. And 2, because a dead man was thrown on the bones of Elijah, and that man lived. Did you hear what I said? There was a dead man. They killed a man, and they threw him. And when his body landed, it landed on the bones of the prophet Elijah. And because his dead body touched those bones, life was restored to him. If I believe that to be true, and the more I read my Bible, the more things I believe in my Bible are actually true. I don't see them as stories. That's what courageous discipleship helps you to see. That's why it's great to start with level 1, because it helps you to see these are people who lived. It helps you to look at them from every angle, right? If I believe that to be true, right, then why do I then think it's impossible? Why then am I not waking up with great anticipation that something has gone viral, and that I could be a millionaire right now because I slept in, because I was watching Ozarks last night. So I stayed up late. Okay. Stayed up late. So I didn't get up till dang 6:30. So I don't know. I could be a millionaire right now, but very rarely do I get up out that bed and not check. Why? Because I'm looking for a cloud the size of a man's hand because I know it's coming. I know it's coming. I believe that. I say that. I don't know how it's going to happen. I also don't know how the dead walked again. I also don't understand how spitting in the mud could give somebody sight. I know that the things I'm believing for are not greater than a man being raised from the dead. For me, I mean, I feel like it's kind of a tall order, raising a man from the dead. So I want to start repeating with the conviction, right, about my business because it's backed by all of the absurdity of the word. You think that what you believe about your business is absurd. Okay, I think it's absurd that God said, let there be light. And then something that never existed on his word. That's, child, that's a very big deal to me. I think that is absolutely like, that's a different, that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level. But you don't really get to understand the culture of kingdom. You don't really get to understand it at an advanced level if you stop at one. So don't stop at Courageous Discipleship 1. Take everyone that the Lord puts in my spirit to create, because each one is going to take you deeper and farther and higher. Every single one. Don't be like, oh, especially if you rock with me. Right now, I just told somebody yesterday, oh, my pastor, she is not my pastor. She's like my mentor, I guess. I guess I do have a mentor. And so a couple times, we don't talk as often as we could because it's not her. We're talking and I'm, talking to her about the church and all the stuff that's going on and whatever. She's like, I was just thinking about you Saturday. And I was like, you know what, Nance? I ain't for everybody. And she just died laughing. She was like, oh no, courage. I was like, I'll just be honest. I ain't for everybody. And so I'm not for everybody. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, I have not been assigned to lead everybody. But what I'm saying to you is if God is giving the person that he has called to lead you in faith to create Courageous Discipleship 100, you should be enrolling in Courageous Discipleship 100. Because he's got you attached to that person for a reason. He's got you under the sound of their voice. He's got you in their community. He's got you on their roster for a reason. So there is something that you need. And so he's telling Courage, go ahead and create the next one. And I'm like, you want me to create the next one? I ain't got that many people coming through the first one. He's like, go ahead and create. It was because somebody needs Courageous Discipleship too. It's not about what I need. I could sell Courageous Discipleship 1 over and over and over again. It is life-changing. It is transformational. Ain't nobody ever seen nothing like it. And I was feeling a type of way yesterday because I saw it's something that is similar on the outside. It's something that's similar on the outside to what I do. And I know that it looks on the surface like that program is better than mine. I know it does because of who it is, because of their level and their notoriety. We're not the same, though. We're not the same. We're not the same. And their price is way less than mine. Yesterday was a rough day. I was really feeling some type of way. And when I looked at it, I'm like, so you still got me charging this and this is what? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, people are going to think I'm crazy. He's like, I don't care. But you know what? I went through one of those programs with this same person that I saw yesterday. I went through one of those programs. It's for somebody. I'm telling you right now, it is for somebody. It is very well put together. But if I'm gonna keep it like the language, analogy, I'm teaching you so that you can speak it, read it, write it at the highest possible level. Students that had me came in saying that they were not going to take Spanish past Spanish 2 because it's all that was required. And I was like, that's not true. You'll be with me till Spanish 4. I'm like, I'm not even worried about that. It's because you think you can't do it. I'm like, but I am the teacher for you. I'm like, don't worry. I'm not y'all are concerned. And it was rough. I had a lot of F's and I had a lot of parents complaining. You know why? Because what they were used to was like Spanish enrichment classes at the high school level. That's why the principal, the head of schools, that's why he recruited me. And I'm telling you this because the skill and the gifting required to turn around a Spanish program that had been failing since I first worked there. I worked for them 1 year. They offered me a position. It was like I started there. I was just like a long-term sub. Somebody got pregnant or something, and they were going to be out, and they needed a long-term sub. And so I went, right? And my kids were probably in like their kids were probably like 6th or 7th grade. They offered me the job at the end of the year. I said no. I turned it down. He was like, "Why not?" I'm like, "Because you're not ready for me, and I want to teach at a school where they actually want their kids to learn Spanish. I don't like Spanish enrichment for middle school or high school." And he was giving the position to a high school teacher. He was giving the high school position to a native speaker, which was fine. But he was like, "Oh, you could help us between the two of us." Between the two of them, I taught Spanish more than once. I taught Spanish more than them. Between the two of them combined, I had more years of teaching Spanish. And I was like, no, I'm like, one, I don't like, you guys kind of have like an enrichment idea. I'm like, and you really could develop a K-12 Spanish, which I would think would be absolutely phenomenal. It would make you stand out. I'm like, so it's a no for me. Especially if I can't teach high school, I will not be coming back to teach middle school. Not going to do it. And so I just look for a job. I just look for another teaching job. And I got hired I still got hired elementary K-5, but they at least were serious about Spanish. It's K-12. They had K-12 Spanish. So even though I didn't want to teach elementary, I went over there. Well, 2 years passed and I got a call from the new head of schools, and he was like, "We want you. We want you." I went out there. It was for an interview. It was on a snow day or whatever. And so we got in the room. It was a panel interview, and I interviewed. And he was like, "I'd love to hire you." I was like, "Oh, that sounds great. I love what it is you want me to do. So I will, I'll start next year." That's what I was thinking, because it was the spring and I still had some months left. And so he's like, "Let's go for a walk." And so we started walking, and he was like, "Not next year. I need you like in a couple weeks." I was like, "Oh yeah, no, because I'm out of school." He was like, "Tell me why you left." He was like, "Because, I'm new here, and it's my understanding that you taught here before." I was like, "Oh yeah, y'all weren't serious about Spanish." I'm like, and I don't want to just have a job just so I can have a job and be making money. That was never my thing. Like, I need to have impact. It's so ridiculous that I did not recognize it before the Lord gave me that as my word. But I want my kids to leave and actually be able to speak Spanish, or to have a love and respect for the language, for those who want it to. Everybody's not going to want to, but for those who want to get to that level, that's where I want it to be. I want it to eventually become Spanish department head. And he was like, "You can do all that here. You can do all that here." So we talked money. Child, he gave me all the money I wanted, and then I called back and asked for some more, and he was like, "Yeah." So I left my job. He gave me a $13,000 raise compared to where I was, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely can't beat that." She was like, "Yeah, no." She was like, "Yeah, want me to help you pack your boxes?" She was like, "Girl, you can go." When I got over there, their Spanish department was their experience. Come on. Their experience, the student experience, was so poor. For the entire time they had been in Spanish, they did not believe, even their smartest kids did not believe it would be possible or enjoyable for them to learn Spanish at the highest possible level that the school offered. And at that time, it was a community school. It was a charter school. It didn't even go up to 12th grade yet. They didn't even have a 12th grade. But I knew that the head of schools, he wanted me to develop it out and then come back and pick up K-5. Like, let's focus on the high school portion. And once we get that full, then we'll come back and work on on this bottom portion, this K-5. And so that's what we did at my time at that school. But when I first started teaching, everybody was getting Fs. Those first quizzes and tests were so low because they were used to being able to just regurgitate things. They were used to an enrichment level. I had a lot of complaints from parents. I had a lot of parent-teacher conferences. I got called to the office a lot in the beginning, a lot. So much so I used to say, "Maybe I am not the teacher for you. So let me know if I'm not the teacher for you, because I am here for my students. I'm not here for their parents, and I am not here for y'all. And I will not do them a disservice by watering down this link. I'm not going to do it. I'm absolutely. So let me know if I should pack today. Because if you need me to pack today, that's cool. I teach Spanish and math. Who not going to have a teaching job? Who? And I come highly recommended. And my numbers speak for them. Who not going to have a job? So I can lead this school today and be in somebody's classroom teaching Spanish and math. So baby, what we doing? Let me know. It was like, no, let's just work it out. Do you understand that because of my skill and the gift of teaching, I never even knew the gift of teaching that God gave me, that not only did I turn the entire Spanish department around, but I had kids who did not like Spanish, who were never going to stay in Spanish, who chose Spanish as majors, who took Spanish every year until it was no longer offered, who went on to take Spanish in college. I had a girl, when I first met her, she was in 8th grade. She knew exactly what college she was going to go to. She knew exactly all the things. She graduates from high school. I'm at her graduation party. I'm the only brown one there. Or my friend, I took Miss Robbie with me. Me and Miss Robbie, we're the only brown people in the building down here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they lived like kind of out in the sticks. Okay. So we're in there and everybody's like, oh, it's great. It's Miss Melina. And she says hi. And I'm saying hi to, the grandma and the mom and the aunties, everybody hugging. It's all cool. And so now she's getting rid of Anna Mims. Her last name is not Mims. She got married. But Anna Mims. And so she's getting ready to do this like little presentation for her family. And she's like, well, I have something to tell you. The only people that knew were her parents. And she's like, she's not going to the school that she planned on going to her whole life, which was like right up the street. It was like Southern and it was closed or whatever. Maybe it's in Virginia. It was just like a few hours away. This is what she always knew she was going to go into ministry and stuff like that. But this is what school she was going to go to. She's telling these people for the first time that I'm going to go to the school in California across the country because of the impact Miss Molina had on me. I'm like, and they looking at me, I'm like, I didn't know that's what this was going to turn into, that you was going to be telling your grandma and your auntie them, y'all been a close-knit family your whole life, that you're going across the dang country to California, and this is a super Christian family too, across the country to one of the most sinful places in America, California, because of my impact. I was like, please stop telling me. But her mom knew. She was like, yeah, Miss Molina, I was mad at you. I was mad. She was like, but I'm just so grateful for you. I'm so grateful because she wants to do missions in other countries, and she'd love to do them in Spanish-speaking countries. And so she's going to get married and all these things. But I say that to say that I've been gifted in teaching, and you've been assigned to my class roster. So enroll in Courageous Discipleship 1 if you haven't, or enroll in Courageous Discipleship 2 if you haven't. And enrollment is open, so you need to get in it today. Stop putting it off. Stop putting off your leveling up. It's not a money issue, and it's not even a time issue. It's just I can wait issue. And my question is, I just feel like I don't want the Lord doing me like that. I don't want the Lord saying, oh, we can wait just for the sake of waiting. Now, if I can't, then I can't. If I'm not able to, then I'm not able to, that I'm not putting it off. I don't have the means to. But if I know I have the money and the time, I'm just putting it off because stop. Yo, listen, I don't want the Lord. Listen, I'm telling you right now. I'd be like, I don't want you putting none of my blessings on pause. So that's why I moved so fast. I came back from that retreat and all the things changed the vision. I gave y'all a vision, that vision had changed already. Why? Because the minute I know what I'm supposed to do, I want to do it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because when I put a prayer in the air to the Lord, you know how I want him to respond? Quick, fast, and in a hurry. All right. I love y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow. Same bat time today, right? Same bat time, same bat station. If you did not like this video, like the video. I mean, if you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. You're still here at an hour in. God help us. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't. And I'll see y'all tomorrow at 6:45 a.m. for a much shorter devotional. This right here was like a Freedom Friday. Okay, but enroll. Y'all see it at the bottom. Enroll immediately. Okay, love y'all. Later.